agree.
I have a motion, do I have a second to approve the minutes?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passed. Treasurer report, Ms. Moreno, are you going to be giving the treasurer report to Jason talk to you, or
Well, I can go ahead and give it. Yes, I did provided the report to Jason, and he reviewed it. And I noticed that there's some notes down here that I would like to clarify.
Okay.
Okay? All right. First of all, I want to go ahead and let you know that we have the revenue for the sales tax at $326,340 for this period, this month. Park and recreations is $3,350. If you see those two line items against the budget, the taxes collection for the month is 48%. Your park and recreation collection is at 41%. The grant donations, we have collected $11,922 against the $12,000 that was estimated, $12,715. Giving us a 93% collection. On other revenues, we had estimated to collect $500, but we have actually collected $27,958, giving us a very high percentage, and I think that might be incorrect because of the way that the table is set up. But overall, total revenues estimated were $695,000 for the year. We have collected $369,000, a total of 53% collected. On expenditures, we had budgeted $671,000. We have spent $121,974, a total of 24%. And if you have any questions in regards to the expenditures, just let me know and I'll be able to answer. On the notes that are on the report, it says that I'm supposed to do a transfer on the money market account. I just want to let you know that I'm new here and I don't know if we have any passwords or any one person that is already assigned at the bank to do the transfers. If it was Laura, and then I need to go ahead and talk to the bank and see if we can do the switch, but that's gonna take a little time.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah,
So I
Laura
just
used to do that, and I figured that was good that the comptroller did it, so
Right.
you know what's in the account and what's not.
Was that done over the phone or was it actually on the internet?
You know, I never quizzed her. She just would switch money. We used to switch money a lot more than we do now.
Okay,
But I know the board would, you know, we don't need the $330,000 in checking, so that's why I was just saying, let's pull $200,000 and put it in the money market, but we'll
Right.
work together on that.
okay,
Okay.
all right. And based on this note, on the checking balance, we had $329,625. Taking that transfer of $200,000, leaving the checking account at $129,625, and those $200,000 are going to the market account, money market account.
And I would just like to add one thing, because I was confused at first, and then Connie showed me on page, I guess it's one, it says 1.
Because it's a report generated from the system.
That basically, you know, when you look at, I was like park and recreation, 8,000, but if you look on that page, park and recreation is a Dill Warehouse rental. And then grants and donations are the F&W loan and the senior village loan, land loan. So, and then other revenue was sale proceeds, 27,558, and then miscellaneous and bank interest.
I'd like to know if the right language they joined it as well. It's 637.
The line item at the bottom, the income where it says loss, What is that,
That's only giving you revenues minus expenditures, and that tells you that you have budgeted that you were gonna have an income of $194,544 after expenditures over the revenues. But year to date, we have collected more revenues than we had expenditures, so you have an income of $247,597.
I may have got you a copy of this, Tommy, because it got your notes on there. Is that, everybody has these notes on their sheet?
I don't think so, that's, oh, you do? Okay, that's one reason I wanted to go over them.
On the first page, not page one, the first page of this report, there's something notated as warehouse number 1, and then there's a note on page 2 of the revenue expense report. It says that's really not ours.
It's the city's warehouse that is at the opposite end of the beer warehouse.
Right.
And I've not talked to the right people, I guess. I've tried for about 3 months to get them to take it off. And somebody at the city's got to call electric, and because I can't just call and say, hey, you know, start charging this to Henrietta. Somebody that's gonna be on the receiving end of the bill needs to call and say, this is an error, you know, we're just paying the utilities. And I guess we've been doing that since time memoriam, and I just need to pull it off the books because we don't have a warehouse.
First of all, I need to determine if it's our bill or your bill. Who does belong to? So we're doing that research. Fonda is gonna start investigating and see who that light bill belongs to. And then after we determine, and then we'll decide where we're gonna move it to.
Yeah, if it's for the secondary bill house, which was what Ram taught me, was actually the original Phelps building, we'll go back and be able to sell.
And I don't wanna get anybody in trouble. I've done that with Fonda for 2 or 3 months.
So
I've noted on there, on the electric bill, and please remove, it's cities.
Yeah, we'll get it straight, we'll get it
Yeah.
straight by the,
I'm gonna
before
be
the council
honest.
meeting,
Okay.
definitely.
And the reports that are attached to the financials, they're all system generated. And I basically don't understand why I have to give you a memo explaining what you are seeing on the table. But that's how Laura was doing it, you're used to that, so I didn't wanna change anything, especially on your first meeting. But if you see these reports, they're the exact same thing that is on the memo, on those tables. So if you would like for me to change it, and then I will accept any recommendations that you have. If not, I can continue doing it. It doesn't bother me. I can, you know, it doesn't take long for me to do that. But it's just a duplication of work because it's already there. And to me, it's more feasible for you to have the system-generated reports than something like these, because data can be lost in the transfer when we're transferring information from one page to the other.
Let me get with you, visit with you about that, because I understand that that's just the way it's been done. We'll get back with you before
Okay.
that time on that.
That's fine, and you can go ahead and let Jason know. He comes by very
Yes, ma'am.
often, and he'll be able to let me know. And the first report is a summary, and it will give you the same information that you have
Yes, ma'am.
on that memo. And then on the second report, you have detailed information
Yes,
where
ma'am.
it also includes account numbers. So that's a little bit more detailed.
Yes. Great. One question I would like to ask you is, like, this is March the 31st, and we have our meeting on the second Monday of each month, if that's
Okay.
what we're planning. Is there a way to maybe get a little bit more current with this, so that, I don't know how long it takes you to turn out a report, but would we be able to maybe start seeing, like in next month, we
Uh-huh.
might have to double up and see April and May, but would we be able get a little more timely, you think? or-
Absolutely, we can, but the only problem with that is that it's 12 days after closing the month. For example, if I give you, today's May, and if I have to give you April's, we still haven't closed the month of April. So you're gonna be missing some interest from the bank accounts. There will be possibly some tax that were not recorded yet, because it's only 12 months within the month. I mean, 12
We
days.
might visit, what we might do is get Jason to visit with you, see if that would be something too. But if
Okay.
we could get a little more timely instead of being up to 45 days past due, it would be, I'd appreciate it if
Right.
you move it.
And it will be okay, it will be fine, because if it doesn't get recorded this month, we record it and you will see it on the following month, as long as you know that there's a timing issue on the way things are being recorded. But I don't have a problem giving you something, from 1 month to the other, that's no problem.
And that'd be nominal, interest carryover from the account and all. But we'll let Jason work on that. I'd like to see it get a little more current, so.
Okay,
Okay.
that's fine. And, that's all for the presentation, you have any more questions?
Thank you very much.
Okay.
I think, this is just something that maybe, we can consider. I know that probably from your standpoint, producing all this stuff on a monthly basis, like, been doing, to me, it would be simpler if we could every month get a, report, and we don't have that many bills, I think, that are being paid every month, from the FEDC, to where we would say, look, we had 10 checks written out this month, you name them, list them, and report it to us at our meeting. At the quarter, why don't we get a report like this? And
I guess it's a
combine,
bank room meeting round, I understand where you're coming, but I don't see a report like this every month. If you want to have, if there's a ledger of checks that are paid out of that or something, I don't know if the bank account does that.
I'm used to what he's saying, and that's what I was thinking, that with your permission, I will probably change. On a monthly basis, I can give you what it's an accounts payable report that will give you all the expenditures for the month, and I can also give you accounts receivable, which it will be the deposits that were posted to that account. And then on a quarterly basis, I can go ahead and do a report like this.
Okay, I'm
But
not
it's
comfortable
up
with
to,
that.
it's up to you, but I am used to that
Yeah.
from the city
I'm
that is.
not used to it.
we used to, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Moreno, probably in that same report on a monthly basis, you would indicate the percentile that has been spent from that item, line item, and we would know, reflecting back to what we have on our budget, and and I think it'd be less, and we can show,
You can see what is being paid on a monthly basis.
On a monthly basis,
And,
that's- I
and
think
it's
that's my
easier to
concern,
catch if there's a mistake,
Yeah.
or it's something that you're not paying, like, for example, Tommy's saying about the light bill. But, I mean, it's up to you, you're the one who's reading the reports, and it's your decision on what information you wanna receive.
We'll visit with you, but, and see what consensus is, but again,
Okay,
I'm used to seeing monthly reports, substantial reports, and I'd like to continue myself, but we'll go from there.
okay.
Any other questions for the?
Connie.
If you don't mind, I'm gonna go ahead and.
All right,
leave.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a good afternoon.
Yes, you wanna hear?
Any other information or questions on the treasurer's report? If not, I'd like to have a motion that we approve the treasurer's report.
So moved.
We have a motion. Do I have a second? Do we have any further discussion? If not, if we're looking to approve the treasurer's report from March the 31st, 2014. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, same sign. Committee report, Jason's not here, he's out of town. Do we have any personnel report?
Not other than Jason's request to be excused.
Okay. We will need to handle that in the new business then. Any other questions? If not, I'm gonna turn it over to Mr. Tommy Baker for executive report.
I'll make this as brief as possible. Over the last 3 weeks, I've sent out 40 to 50 marketing letters to restaurants, and that's privately owned and franchised, with a copy of our traffic count study. I haven't heard from a blessed soul, but I'm hoping that there's some interest generated, and, you know, it takes, you know, maybe takes a good while to get this to the right people and go and take a look at Floresville. I have, Phelps has received approval from TxDOT to bring three-phase electrical across FM 537 to the Unihoven site. I was out there today. There's no pole. They're waiting, I guess, in a queue line to get the pole and the electrical moved over, and then Unihoven will be happy. They've done their huge concrete drive into their property, and so they're moving right along. The contract on Lot 4, Veterans Park, has been fully executed. Earnest money received at Murray Title, and as of May 2nd, they started their 90-day free look-see feasibility period. And that'll expire August 1st. I'm working with Harry Grove on design, a real smart design for FEDC marketing brochure. And I'm very impressed with Harry's creativity, but we sort of work at Harry's pace. You know, if he's got a woodworking project,
If you know Harry,
this is gonna
that's how
go.
Harry works.
This is gonna go second, but anyway. The facade grant to Arcadia Theater, they finished the exterior painting. We've paid them for that part of it, and now the next thing will be a bright red vertical Arcadia sign where it's faded out now, and then electronic marquee instead of, I guess, getting on a ladder and posting them. So she's real excited, scared to death that another theater is gonna come into town or something, but anyway, the construction extension agreement between Eric and Lisa Rodriguez and the FEDC has been fully executed and is now in effect. I will be attending a 2-day Texas Rural Challenge Economic Development Conference in Waco, June the 19th and 20th. I think the items that are going to be discussed are things that are very appropriate for Floresville, like there's going to be a speaker on shale production and the companies that are involved in that, and offshoots of opportunities and problems and all that sort of thing. And then looking at it from a rural perspective, as far as companies and opportunities and threats and so forth. So it ought to be real eye-opening. I requested the county through Paul File to grade the roads in the industrial park. Asked him not to throw anything at me over the phone, but I was just asking if that could be done. He said I needed to talk to the county not the county judge, a county attorney, and see about filing an interlocal agreement. I talked to the county attorney. She's drafting one up. The county has agreed to $50 an hour to grade the roads, which is a great price. I had an outside contractor bid $18,000, and then following the grading of those roads, then we'll come back in with a bid to put in road base if it's needed. But the grading, I hope, will take a lot of those pits out of the road, and then we'll, for things that need more base, we'll get a bid. I'll get a bid to haul it in. That's it.
I think from the grading, it's good, you know, it's, I guess, the way I see it, it gonna be a Band-Aid, really. That's the only thing it's gonna do, because eventually, if it's not, put and roll over and watered and roll over, you know, that pothole is gonna come right back, you know, if we don't get any rain, moisture in the roads, you know.
Yeah.
So that's all it's gonna do, you know.
Yeah.
Now,
The road really, I mean, the main thing about grading is it's washboard right now.
well, it is.
You know, it's
bad.
just horrible. And so, if I have to bring in more fill, it's gonna be, part of the bid is gonna be watering it and then putting it in and compacting it so it sticks. And then I hope to gosh, within the next couple of months, we'll be under road construction, and we'll just be that much further ahead, I hope, in building the base up to 10 inches.
Well, from the last report, and maybe you correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought that by now, we would have had something already in the planning stages from Heimer and everything regarding the roads.
We're going to cut that in a little bit, because, if we'll go into this a little bit, we would try and get the 3 individuals to sign off for the required water drainage on it. 2 of them would sign off, the 3rd one wouldn't. And at the last meeting that we had last week, we talked about the agreement of us exchanging the mineral easement for that 5-acre tract on the Laredo hydrotax, so we could acquire it back. Remember that?
I remember that.
And
That's
until
all
they,
the-
until we get that, we can't proceed forward. So we're working on that, we'll cover some more of that a little bit later.
Well,
But we can't proceed on when Laredo Habitat wouldn't agree to that easement.
Because they didn't want it running along West Cardinal on their frontage.
Yeah, they wouldn't agree to that, so that's why we did that other. Any other questions for Mr. Baker on his report? If not, we're gonna go to the new business, and the first item is actually mentioned under 3B of the old business. Jason Talley is requesting an excused absence, he is away in Austin on business tonight, so he'd like to be receiving an excused absence for this meeting.
Make a motion to give Jason the excuse absence for the meeting this tonight. I'll second.
We have a motion and a second for Jason Talley to be excused from this meeting tonight. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passed. Item 5 is the discussion possible action, seek authority from board for the executive director to execute legal documents, including contract warrants and deeds on behalf of FEDC. I requested this be put on there. I've been with Howard Berger because on some of these documents that's been signed, they all have me on the side. And while that's fine, realistically, the person that should be executing these documents would be our executive director, Tommy Baker. So I requested that we put that on here to give the authorization for our executive director to execute documents. And Howard said this is what we need to do to get him to approve of that. So if there's anybody has questions or whatever, I'd like to motion second, we can discuss it if you want to at that time.
You want the motion first?
You really should.
Oh, you should, yeah. Well, then I would move to give our executive director the authority to execute legal documents, including contracts and warranty deeds on behalf of the FEDC.
We have a motion and a second to give authority for executive director. Is there any discussion at this point in that time?
Just want to make it clear that he wouldn't sign off on anything that the board hasn't agreed to. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah.
The board would still have to authorize him.
I hope that anything that you do, you know, has to be brought before the board.
That's correct.
you know.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That's why I mentioned it.
Yeah.
It's the same way when I was signing off, it still has to be, so it just takes putting him in my place is what it meant.
But for example, the contract tonight that we're gonna go over with those changes, that with this, I can initial them and so forth, instead of running and trying to find Andy or Andy or
If I
Jason
recall,
and
that's
stuff.
part of your job description.
Yeah,
Good question. Any other further questions? If not, I'm gonna bring it to a vote. The motion is to approve the executive director to execute legal documents, including but not limited to contract and warranty deeds on behalf of Floresville Economic Development Corp. All in favor say aye. All opposed, same sign. Okay, the second one is, you can read it, it's for a one-year contract for Barry Morrison to mow and shred for FEDT property. We had a couple of bids out there, and Tommy's been working on this for a while, in fact.
And I ran an ad in the paper, and Barry's the only one that called in off of it, and I ran it for 2 months or something.
And I think Graham worked last year a couple of times, didn't you, on trying to get it shredded? And we started with some people, they couldn't do it, they had to get others, didn't
Yeah.
they?
Well, there are people that, you know, that at first they think it's easy to go out there and do it, but once they get out there, you know,
Is that price comparable to what?
oh yeah, the price is very comfortable, so, to me, I think it's good that we can at least depend on this individual, and if and whenever we need, you know, that he needs mowing, or
Right.
maybe every 3 months, or every, you know, depending.
Yeah, I know what per acre, and I know how many acres, and
Yeah.
he's got a bush hog, so he can cover about 1.5 times what, in this case, James ranch hand mowed, but it was just a regular, you know, shredder width, and this is
And
one
if
and
you
a
get
half
started,
times.
they just while it's small, instead of waiting till it's over your
Yeah,
head, isn't
yeah.
it?
Yeah.
Does he invoice you each time, or how is that?
I'm gonna, when I think it's appropriate, you know, when the grass has gotten to, you know, probably a little more, around knee high or something, and I'm getting that in there to mow it.
Okay.
But we're looking
But
at
he
about
won't do it
7.
without your call?
Right, he's not gonna do it unless I tell him,
Okay.
but there's about 71 acres in there with the, all the things that, you know, we have to mow right of ways and conservation area.
I would entertain a motion for this.
So move.
Have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve a one-year contract with Barry Morrison for mowing, spreading FEDT property. Now, it says property, so I guess it could be any and all property that we have in this state at that time.
Yeah.
At this time, we can go into discussion. Do you have any further discussion?
There's no dollar amount guaranteed to him.
What's that?
There's no dollar amount, or no amount of business guaranteed to him. This is just a one-year agreement that he's gonna mow when you
For
ask him to
42 an
mow.
acre, yeah.
Any other further discussion? If not, I'm gonna call for a vote. All, in favor of approving a one-year contract with Barry Morrison for mowing and shredding of FEDT property, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passed. In item 7, this is what I alluded to just a little bit. To complete the trade of the mineral interest that we have on the 60 acres of Hammer and Laredo isotope. For the 6 acres that we sold to them, one thing they wanted us to do is to give them a mineral search on the 2 30.93 acre tracts to show that we own 100% of that, so that when we convey them 50% of what we own, they're getting 50% of mineral. To get a mineral run on this, I contacted Robbie Harvey with Foster and Harvey, and they specialize and do lots and lots of mineral runs out there for us. Robbie agreed to take on the assignment, and the estimated cost, well, he said what they do is normally $500, they're gonna charge you $450 an hour for their landman or woman to do the work on it. And he said it could be between $2,400 to $3,500. And he said if they ran into a issue, they knew it's gonna be a big issue, they would stop and call us immediately. They said they could have it ready for us in 7 days. Asked me if they could step on it. So that's the issue there. Because we cannot move forward on the paving. Larry Heimer has done all the work he can at this time based on it. If we have to go back in and reroute all the drainage on the road, I think the cost was going to increase like 4 times, 4 to 5 times. In other words, astronomically. So this is in our benefit. I think that, Ray, correct me if I'm wrong, that they are agreeable, that they're ready to close it within a day or two after we give them the run. They didn't ask for opinion, an attorney opinion or anything. They didn't want it to rush you.
You're right.
So they're gonna have their attorney do to review it and look through it. They've probably seen it a number of times. You know, would you like to add anything to that, Ray, before we?
If we could have gotten something from when we leased our property that they could have seen, this wouldn't be necessary. I mean, all they wanted to know was something to substantiate, we do have this many %. And that's why we're having to spend this money, but they weren't really being horsey about it, just we couldn't produce a document.
So there is no documentation on those 60 acres? Is that
Oh,
what
no,
you're
mineral.
saying?
Mineral.
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 Okay, the mineral right. I thought that when this land was purchased back from the original owner, that all the mineral rights under that contract, you know,
Well, it said whatever was owned, we conveyed it up. But you don't know what you bought.
Nobody spelled it out.
It
And
says, I'll give you 100% of what I have, but I'm not guaranteed to have anything.
And the title company won't mess with it. That's an exclusion on their title policy or anything below the surface. And so we couldn't, we got in touch with the landman that leased the land of FEDC's. He wasn't working for him. He didn't have any notes, and the company, Ray tried to contact him and they wouldn't return his call. So we were forced to do this to try to find out or to certify that we had 100% of the minerals before they will close and receive 50% of those.
No mineral was run when the purchase was bought.
That's fruit bar number 739.
So this is what we had to do. And we cannot, again, we cannot move forward with Larry Heimer finishing up his bid document until we know where we put those drainage easements.
so when we sold property, and it's been discussed that on certain properties that have been purchased by some of these people, where it indicates mineral rights, and know that the mineral rights were.
No reservation. What you do on that, Raymond, is when you sell those on it, you can either sell, you can convey it all you have, or you're retaining a portion of whatever you have. But if you don't know if you only own 50%, and you say you're conveying all of it, you're giving somebody 50%. But even if you say you're retaining half, well, you're retaining 25. But there's never been a case out there where we had the document, how much we had to start with. Was this bottle completely full of minerals when we bought it, or was it half empty? Up until this time, we've seen no documents to know what. Now, based on Talisman Police, we know that we had 100%. But Talisman landmen did their title work on the mineral, but we don't have privy to that.
And so
It's
any
words only, it's not.
That's it.
Yeah, any contract we had, we sold 2 acres and retained the minerals, except for, there were 3 or 4 or something that,
Well, there's
Jesse made a deal.
3
with.
properties, I think, Raiders is one of them, that kept, they got, the other one is, trucking, the entrance was the other one. And, the one behind it, I think, that connected with, trucking.
And they just can't convey whatever it was we had, they conveyed it to us. But there's no guarantee there's 100% of the mineral. Any other further discussion, questions on this?
So this is not this is gonna be an expense, I guess,
It's either spend 2,400, 3,500, or 3 or 4 million.
I mean, this project's been delayed 3 months for sure. Now we're into the fall.
We don't really have a choice on that.
You really don't.
Housing and that, what they do. Anybody?
Yeah.
I would entertain a motion to approve this in a second, and if you want to discuss it further, that can, and you can vote it down after that even, that's what you can. No, but we need to, anybody have any further questions? I'd like to
You
entertain
want
a
to
motion.
put a cap on it?
Well, it's 2,400, 3,500.
You know, I asked him, but basically he told me the same thing as he told Andy, that he thought it would be about a week, but the lady that does all of this search had broken her arm or something, and she could only work a certain number of hours a day, and then he had to let her go home. So, you know, there's no fixed amount of time it's gonna take to find the mineral interest, because she's got to go back, you know.
Is she the only one they have hired who can do it?
Actually, they have about 20 lawyers out at this Floresville office, and they have a huge number more out in Midland and Odessa.
But this particular, he told me this one lady did this part of the mineral search, and, you know, he said, I just want you to know we're gonna have to work around our schedule. I said, you know, and it's like, I don't have any choice, of course, let's do it.
And some other tile companies and attorneys we talked to, they refuse to even take this out.
Okay, I will move to, for us to hire Tile Express to run a mineral search on the two 30.93 acre tracts, mineral isolation and hammer exploration to verify in writing that the FEDC owns 100% of the minerals under these two tracts. Cost estimates reportedly range from $2,400 to $3,500, depending on the time required to complete the mineral search.
And whether it's gonna be actually Tile Express or Foster and Harvey, I don't know how they're gonna divide that, but it's one of the two. We have a motion, do we have a second? We have a second. Any further discussion? If not, call for a vote, all in favor of engaging Tile Express and our Foster and Harvey, a cost estimate of not to exceed 3,500 to do a mineral search, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passed, thank you. Next one is the early funding contract on the house and 2 acres listed by Ted Barber. We're gonna be going into executive session for that and reconvene. Anybody have anything for, we have a motion going to executive session?
So moved.
We have a motion second to go into executive session. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. We're going to executive session. It is now 7:12.
Moving right along, we'll get home before that game starts.
It's cold, get y'all out. We have this one item on the contract, pretty simple. You understand, call you when it's over. Mr. Will Gibbs?
I can call Tommy in the morning and
Okay.
get the info on no need to stay. Yeah, maybe I'll go home and watch the Trailblazers roll over another game too.
We got the people that don't have a good feeling about that, so.